Well, the death of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg kind of thrown a grenade into the 2020 presidential and senatorial races, no doubt about that. Um, she was the most liberal justice on the Supreme Court, I believe. I think we'd all agree on that, and was a seminal figure for the left and a major adversary for the right. So, such as it is. However, what's before us is that we have a current Supreme Court of, we have five conservatives on there. I think four pretty staunch conservatives, and one that's the Chief Justice has moved a little bit to the moderate side. Although he's still basically conservative on a large range of issues, he's just not prepared to make radical decisions. Let's put it that way, for the most part. And then you have the remaining three are very staunchly liberal, I would say. Breyer may be a little bit less extreme leftist than others, and even Kagan has their moments of sanity, but Sotomayor is pretty far out there, I think. So this is important because if President Trump, of course, can appoint a solid conservative and get this individual confirmed, we would now have a 6-3 majority, and even if and can kind of overcome perhaps some of Justice Roberts's unwillingness to take the strong moves that ought to be made at times. That, of course, will absolutely fire up the left and create intense opposition in the media. There has been some discussion, of well, there are a variety of options that could be followed. One would be what the Democrats are recommending is just not to appoint anybody to after the election. And of course, I guess the other possibility, of course, would be to appoint somebody, but actually have them vote for confirmation after the election. But to have the candidate in work, so to speak, going through all the vetting and committee hearings and so forth, but hold off on the final vote after the election, while people that might have some reason to be, careful might be careful. And the other is just to go ahead and get the thing done and put it through now as soon as possible. In reality, a lot of these procedures are not absolutely necessary. I mean, theoretically, a lame duck Senate that had lost and a lame duck president that had lost could put somebody through right after the election. So, I mean, that sort of thing can happen. So it probably won't turn out quite that way. One interesting thought about that I haven't heard too much about, but interesting, is the fact that Kamala Harris is on the Judiciary Committee, and if we actually have hearings like we did on Kavanaugh and all, that would take her off the campaign trail for a while during those hearings. Of course, 4 Republican senators on the committee are up for re-election also, and of course that would take them off the campaign trail for certain periods of time. So view that like you want. I don't know how much any of those individuals are actually at risk. I think one of them is in a very competitive race, actually Tillis in North Carolina. The others, I think, will get reelected, I believe, and they're almost from states where it's probably their incentive to support a Trump nominee at this time, because they have to keep their base together, and so that's kind of the way I see that situation. What will President Trump do? I think thinking is probably he will appoint somebody from his list. I don't think, I briefly thought, well, is there an option he might come up with a more moderate figure to kind of, but A, that would be a betrayal of his own movement, and I don't think he's going to do that, and be somebody off of his list, obviously. So I don't think that's what he will do. I think he will go forward, and I think he will nominate somebody, and then we'll have to see, how the Senate deals with it. I guess it is a possibility if he gets a feedback from the Senate that they're not prepared, that they don't have the minimal 50 votes to do it. But I just think this is one of those things where people have to go forward, because the opportunity is great here to actually have a solid majority on the court and maybe achieve a few goals. It seems like every time we get 5-4, one of the 5 wimps out. So I'm hoping that maybe 2 won't do it this time. That's one of the things you always get into. And there's certainly some areas, of course, the pro-life, pro-choice issue is a big one. I think the Second Amendment is a very big one too. I think that that's a particular area where I think we could have some extension of the Heller decision to actually get rid of some of these extremely restrictive gun laws in some states that I think should be considered unconstitutional. Of course, that's my opinion. And well, other than that, just to ensure a little bit for the future, because I mean, who knows how the election will turn out. I'm very hopeful that President Trump will be reelected, and it's hard to really know, what impact this will have. I mean, it can have the effect of both rallying the base and also rallying the opposition, of course. So that's to be seen. So I think the other issue that comes up on timing is that, of course, Senator McSally in Arizona is an interim appointment. And as I understand, her term will end, I believe it is when the election's over. If she's not reelected, that is, then they would have to, it'd be after the certification of the election, which with all the absentee ballots in Arizona, it will probably be several days after November the 3rd. So the option of voting after the election is still a possible thing. I think one of the people that's going to be most disturbed by this whole thing, but it could even be an opportunity, of course, is Collins, who is a very liberal Republican, probably the last of the real rhinos. Well, her and I guess McCoskey's kind of got into that. Murkowski, excuse me, into that, and she's she probably will not support a move at this time on the grounds it's too late in the term or something, and that way kind of wave off the thing. However, we don't know. We'll have to see what develops. But this is a major development with a lot of import. One thing that does concern me about the situation, I've always raised the issue of if the Democrats were to win, I really would like to see a possibility of not doing radical maneuvers like ending the filibuster, which, filling the seat now with a strong conservative might very well motivate them to actually take these actions and give them some extra, in their own minds, justification. Of course, this would have to, to get a real majority, they would have to really appoint several additional, I think, would it be 4 additional seats on the Supreme Court. And that would be pretty wild, I think. That would be to create those new justiceships. And of course, we'll just have to wait and see what happens on that, of course. Well, at any rate, I thought I'd just wrap this up. You can, I hope you'll like and subscribe and, forward this to friends if they're interested in this kind of video. I'll continue to try to create content of this sort and other topics. In a post-election environment, I would like to expand into a lot more things, but the election is kind of a major consuming thing at the moment.